You're listening to BusinessFlowShow.com. Let Andrew Roberts and Adam Sowden help you get more flow, freedom, and fulfillment out of your business so you can minimize stress and maximize enjoyment on your business journey.
Hi there, everyone. It's Andrew here, and welcome to the Business Flow Show, where we help you get more flow, more freedom, more fulfillment out of your business journey and also your life. And this is a huge topic this week, and it's a topic that often can be a little bit of a scary concept for a lot of listeners, a lot of people in business. And the title of this podcast is The Paradox of Discipline and Patience. And the big idea that Adam and I really want you to get from this episode is the moments when you realize that being disciplined is actually one of the major keys to happiness and actually experiencing more flow, more fulfillment, more freedom in your life. And that it's a real paradox. You can't actually have discipline and also patience without the other. You need the discipline to experience patience, and you also need patience to experience discipline. And I had an enormous light bulb moment going back around about a decade ago where I totally mastered and understood the importance of discipline, particularly in it being a business owner. Now, I'll bring Adam in very shortly, but I just wanted to share a quick story with you, or a quick concept, a quick metaphor to help put this into context. And it's known as the law of control. And the law of control states that our happiness is measured when you're in control of all areas of your life. So you feel happy when you're in control, and you feel unhappy when you're not in control. So if you just think about that for a moment, if you look at your relationship, think about when it goes, if it's ever been in chaos or turmoil. Often it's when you feel like there's a lack of control. Now, that may or may not be necessarily true, but one of you feels, I've lost control a little bit here. There's an element of a feeling of loss in control. Think about weight. If you're unhealthy or you're not looking after yourself, often it's because you've lost control. And I've been through this before, and I'm sure many of you have, where you're in stress or you're in overwhelm and you're not looking after yourself. So you're stopping exercising, you're stopping eating good food, so you lose control. The same's true in money, in generating money. It's when you don't have control of your finances, it creates this overwhelming stress, this angst, this feeling of chaos. And so we're here today to really, really bring you back to the power of discipline, the power of patience. And Adam, would love to just bring you in on this concept, this topic as well, just to maybe define why you also believe this is such an important subject for business owners.
Well, thanks for, it's a great question, and this is a fantastic topic that we're talking about today. The thing I suppose that I appreciate about this topic the most is that most business owners I see are looking for a shiny new thing, a better marketing funnel, more leads, more this, more that. Most people are looking outside of the basic disciplines required to grow a business. And how many business owners do you talk to that say, I know I should be doing this, I know I should be doing that? How many unhealthy people do you see who say, I know I shouldn't eat this much food, or I know I shouldn't drink this much? How many people, even on drugs, who have drug problems or addiction problems, they know that what they should or shouldn't do. But the crucial thing that's missing often is discipline. And part of the reason why I'm so passionate about discipline and why I think it's such an important topic to discuss is that most people have what I consider a misconstrued idea of what discipline actually is. To most, discipline is something that must be forced. To most, discipline is something that's hard or it is about control in that forceful sense. But discipline, as far as I'm concerned, is not, if we're forcing it, then we're doing it wrong. And that's why I love this topic today. Discipline shouldn't be this this aggressive need to hold ourselves and control ourselves. Discipline is actually an understanding of the goal that we want, the lifestyle that we want, is more important if we do the right things in the right order. And that's why I love discipline. It's actually misconstrued, and that's why most people, I believe, struggle with it.
Yeah, and I also think, to add to that, it's just considered, Adam, such a dirty word. I think people hear the word discipline and shrink and contract and think it's a yucky word. And you've nailed it on the head. This episode is all about embracing that word, and maybe even finding a different word if that doesn't work for you, but to actually realize that it's a critical part of happiness and fulfillment. And it's something that unfortunately so many people have lost from society, from TV or whatever it is, or just from even being upbringing. It's maybe the tall poppy syndrome, where being that person that's disciplined may be almost so different compared to everyone else that they're a bit of an outcast.
Yeah. And look, it's if I can just add there, I personally, I think everyone is disciplined. I believe everyone is disciplined, but the question is, what are they disciplined to? What have they like? If you look at the etymology or the root word of discipline, is disciple, and it's to be a disciple of something. Now, if you look at someone who is incredibly unhealthy, they're disciplined towards their poor health. If you look at someone who's incredibly healthy, they're disciplined towards their good health, etc. And it's the same with good relationships, bad relationships, good businesses, bad businesses. Everyone really is a disciple of what they think is most important. And if beer is, if you're a disciple of beer, fantastic. But there will be consequences to whatever you're a disciple of, and we can talk about what I mean by that later in this podcast.
Yeah, you're on the money, because everyone is actually, all of you are doing the best you can with your available resources. And it's if we just take a step back and look at why is this so important, particularly for business owners. And the first reason is business owners, entrepreneurs are often in chaos. And the reason they're in chaos is because there's just more things to do. There's more interruptions. There's more tasks to take on. And we spoke about this back in episode 1, where we really went into a business owner has to be a CEO, a sales manager, a marketing manager, an operations expert, a systems expert, an HR officer, mastering recruitment, looking reward and recognition for team members. Then you've got to be the IT expert and a finance expert. And so there's so many moving pieces being the business owner that it's actually more important to focus on habits, good habits and discipline than if you're working or if you're an employee of someone else. So I believe business owners need more discipline than most. I also believe there's so many moving parts, Adam, and you started going into some of them. The shiny object syndrome and all these things that are changing. There's so many parts that are pulling you away from being in flow. There's so many things.
Yeah, exactly.
And discipline will bring you back. Discipline, in order to experience more flow, more freedom, I will often meet with a client and I just look at, well, where have you lost discipline? In what areas do we need to define to get these little 1%ers back in to bring you back into flow?
Yeah.
Anything else for you to add to that? Just why this, again, in why this is so important for entrepreneurs?
Well, I think one of the things that's most important with discipline or business in general is business itself. The essence of business is provide a good service, ensure that you've got decent margins. The actual process of running a business is simple. There are a few really, really essential steps that need to be taken. And however, the challenge is not in making a successful business is identifying what they are and consistently going about and giving attention to those essential things. Discipline, I believe, is the key to a successful business. I see a lot of very, very intelligent people who are great at what they do, who don't have a successful business because of this lack of discipline. Now, I've got a personal story of this myself from my high school. My uncle, he drilled this into me when I was playing rugby in high school, because I did quite well at rugby, but because it wasn't an effort, because I didn't have to try very hard initially to be good at rugby, because I naturally could play it quite well. I didn't learn the discipline of training. And he used to say to me, Adam, the guys who you see at the top are not necessarily the most talented ones. They're the ones who had the most discipline. And he had this saying, he said, talent is cheap. Character is currency. Talent is cheap and character is currency. Now, I believe character is, which is probably another word for discipline, maybe, Robbo, but character is that ability to hold yourself accountable to what's most important, turn up and do what's required to create success in a business. And it's quite often not the most talented people. He used to have this saying. He goes, my best mate, who was the most talented rugby player I've ever played with, now is serving drinks in a bar. And his other mates, who weren't very good, ended up playing for Queensland and Australia and rugby league, because they had that discipline. Discipline is currency. It's true currency when it comes to business and any success. That's all endeavour in life.
In life, it's the key to life.
Yep.
And if we actually look at some facts as well, Adam, like 96% of business owners will close their doors in 10 years, and the main reason is burnout. Right? That's actually a fact. Now, 9 out of 10 people don't plan their days or their weeks, and most people lack, just as you mentioned, those little 1%ers that if they just got clear on these little 1% disciplines and were able to become habitual in these things. And that's another key word, because habitual, when you look at habits, good habits are hard to have but very easy to live with. Good habits are actually hard to have, perception of being hard to have, easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to have. It's hard to live with. And I always, there's a concept known as the bridge of discipline. And I was taught this many years ago, and it just made so much sense for me. And it was an illustration, if you could appreciate or visualize this big river, a big gushing river, and it's maybe 70 meters wide. And you're looking across this bridge, and it's this water pouring down it, but 50 meters up is a bridge. And in order for you to get across the bridge, you've got to firstly set a goal. You've got to set a goal to get across the bridge. So just hypothetically imagine you need to set out all the goals for what you want out of your life. So you have all these goals. It might be millions of dollars in business and 10 weeks off a year, whatever it might be. But the only way for you to get the goals to get across the bridge is to actually be on the bridge. And this concept was known, Adam, as this bridge of discipline. And so in order to move from point A to point B, you have to be on the bridge. But so many business owners are not on the bridge of discipline. They're in the water. They're being gushed down the river. And often the thing that's being gushed down the river, it's one word summarizes it. It's busyness. It's busyness.
Wow.
And because people are busy, but often what they're busy doing is not going to move you from point A to point B. It's not actually, it's the stuff that you think's important, but it's not. So, for example, if you want more fun and freedom in your life, then you actually have to be doing stuff that you enjoy. You have to be disciplined enough to make a plan for it. So, for example, for me, it's so important that I have time with my family, right? But it's very easy for me to be busy and caught up in everything else and not on that bridge. And therefore, if I don't stay on the bridge, I won't actually get the gold. And the bridge of discipline is such a powerful concept. And we'll get into, as we move a bit more through this podcast, what I believe and what you believe, Adam, are some of the key things that will keep you on that bridge of discipline. But do you have anything else to add to that?
Discipline itself. I think with
to that story, the bridge of
discipline. The bridge of discipline. I think in relation to the bridge of discipline, there are so many stories. His name escapes me. The sprinter, Usain Bolt. Sorry about that mental block. Usain Bolt. I remember. Sorry, this is Usain Bolt, the sprinter.
Bolt, yep.
So Usain Bolt. There was an interview with him after he'd won the gold medal at the most recent Olympics, and the commentator said, "You make it look so easy. You make it look so easy to be so successful." And Usain said, "What you don't realise is that I work harder than anyone. I make it look easy when I'm racing." And he said, "I work harder than anyone. This isn't just natural talent. I work harder than anyone at my craft." And he said, "What you won't see me doing," he goes, "I'm young. I'm 20-something. He's obviously an impressive specimen of the male species, so he could be out having a damn good time, and he's not. He's at home in bed while other people are out partying." And I think the thing that I want to add to this is what he's done, and this is the bridge that we're talking about here. What he's clear on is what makes the bridge successful, and also what doesn't go on to the bridge. And I think that's a key thing with discipline, is understanding, okay, this is what I've got to do, yes, but being very clear on this is what I'm not doing. I will not have this. I will not have this in my life. I'm not going to be partying while I'm training. And he works very hard in the training, but he's also very clear on the ingredients of success that can't be there, if that makes sense. Like, you can't, he must be recovering, he must be getting enough sleep, he must be doing all these things. And, a Jamaican man, probably anti-Jamaican to not be out partying, but Usain that's why he's the best in the world. Not just because of how hard he works, but also how hard he works at keeping the inessential things out of his routine.
Yeah. Well, and also to add to that, he's super clear on what he wants. He's super clear on what his other end of the bridge looks like in order to figure out what should be on the bridge and what actually constitutes off the bridge. And you've hit the nail on the head, and we're going to come to that shortly. And I had another story which I wanted to share, and I got this from a book, Adam, that I really recommend to everyone. It's called The Practicing Mind. And The Practicing Mind is a book on discipline and patience, actually. And they use a story of a golfer, similar to the story that Adam just raised, but it's just such a powerful story because it uses a story of, hypothetically speaking, there's a guy that wants to become a professional golfer. And just so everyone's aware, there's a handicap system in golf. For those that aren't golfers, it starts, I think, at like 40 or something like that, I should know, maybe 45. And when you're professional, your rating's 0. So you'll move, 45 all the way down, all the digits to 0 as you improve. And when you hit 0, that constitutes professional, which means often you can go and play in the TV and in the big tournaments. So like Greg Norman, Tiger Woods, etc. So this particular day, this particular gentleman makes a decision to become a pro, which is a 0 handicap. Now, this is powerful because in business, we have to make a decision to set a goal. So your goal might be, I'm going to create a business that's going to turn over $3 million, make me $1 million a year with operating without me. So there's nothing different. Now, in this golfer's example, once that goal's set, if you think about the only way for that golfer to move towards the zero from, let's say they're at 45 and they're going to move towards that zero, it's fascinating. Number one, they're going to have to get the professional to teach them how to play golf. And this is a big, big turning point because most people will try and figure it out themselves. And once this golfer makes the call, it's going to save him so much energy and effort if he chooses to be taught by a professional. So he's going to engage a coach. He's more than likely going to invest in the correct equipment if he's going to take this seriously. And the only other thing he has to do, Adam, is he has to practice. And the practice is interesting, hence the title of the book, The Practicing Mind. Now, this guy has to get out there, and there's a series of shots he has to practice. He has to learn how to drive. He has to play fairway shots. He has to learn how to hit it out of the rough. If he falls in the rough, he has to learn how to hit it out of the sand bunker, and he has to learn how to putt. And he has to put a lot of time and energy into these things. And here's what's fascinating. The goal needs to change from reaching the zero handicap to how much practice he's going to put in daily. Isn't that interesting?
Right.
It's irrelevant. The zero is irrelevant. The new goal needs to become how much time are you going to practice?
Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be the discipline to stick to the plan. And it's the saying, Adam, a professional will do their best work even when they don't feel like it.
Yeah.
So on those days that he doesn't feel like practicing, it's going back to the why. It's going back to the reason why he chose that goal in the first place. That will get him out of bed and actually doing the discipline to do the hard work. Now, in addition to that, if you think about it, the golfer also has to work on the discipline of his mind, because the mind is so powerful. It's the mind that actually lacks the most discipline. So the art of meditating, the art of patience, the art of letting go if he's getting frustrated, all these things are skills of a professional golfer. And it's just the routine and the practice over and over and over again. And eventually, without him even trying, his score will improve. It's like a guarantee. It really is. It's a guarantee. Now, he may or may not ever hit the zero. He will hit the zero if he maintains the discipline and doesn't get bored, which what happens to most people, doesn't get bored, or he loses the same enthusiasm that he had when he set the goal. That's what kills most ideas, right? Because they're enthusiastic when they set the goal, but there's this huge gap, and this is the patience. This is the patience, because most people will pull out of that goal because they get bored, or they lose enthusiasm, or they get distracted by a different shiny object. And hence why the discipline and the patience is so important. But one of the most important things that the book also helps you understand, and Adam, I'll ask you this question. When that golfer, let's say he keeps going and he reaches a 10 handicap, which, by the way, is very, very good. Out of curiosity, is his life any different when he reaches that point?
That's a great question, because all that's changed is a number. I don't know if his life would be any different, and unless the disciplines he's ingrained are making him happy. But the number itself, I don't think would change much at all.
No,
not in the long term.
You're on the money. And what about zero? What about when he eventually realizes his goal? Is he actually happier?
Well, you look at a lot of
thing, isn't it?
You look at Tiger Woods out there, and he doesn't look. If I was that good, based on this whole idea of reaching zero or making you happy, Tiger doesn't always or rarely looks like he's really enjoying himself out on the golf. Yeah.
So here's what the book, The Practicing Mind, said. It's the actual practicing part that needs to be enjoyable, not the goal.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's actually finding enjoyment in the practicing part. And I think so many business owners miss this. They think it's the happiness will kick in when the goal occurs, but and this is the whole saying, Adam, it's the journey, not the destination. And it's only when you actually find excitement in the practicing, in the actual stuff that's going to get you there, when you actually get really enthusiastic about that. Because why, we'll go back to Usain Bolt. He'd be an idiot to be doing that if he didn't enjoy the practicing. It's just crazy. It's so it's being also very sure that you choose that journey where you're actually going to enjoy the practicing of what's going to actually lead you there. So, and do you have anything else to add to that story? I think it's such a if people can get this, such profound learning.
There's two things I want to add, and they both come from Eastern philosophy. The first is there's a principle in Eastern philosophy. It says, we eat the cows eat the grass absorb the sun's rays or the minerals from the soil. The premise basically is saying that we're the top of the food chain. We eat cows eat grass. The grass has to consume something to survive or grow. But most people, the thinking stops there. Most people don't assume. Mankind has got this idea that we're the top of the food chain. But the truth is, the premise basically is that we are feeding ourselves to something. If we feed ourselves to our business, we feed ourselves to our relationships, we feed ourselves to what we put our time into. And the premise in Eastern philosophy is be careful what you feed yourself to, because some things don't have a nice digestion. Now, so if you're giving yourself in a less than ideal relationship, the digestion of that will be really uncomfortable. But if you're feeding yourself to something that's like a loving relationship with a nice person, the digestion of that, and what I mean by digestion is the experience we have, the emotional response, etc. And it's the same with business. I personally, part of what I'm glad about myself is that I've just never had that ability. I just don't have it in me to do things that I don't like doing. It was when I was younger and trying to have a job as a teenager, it didn't look very good because I could never hold a job, but it's made me a decent entrepreneur or business owner because, I wasn't able to work for someone, so I had to choose and build businesses that I actually was interested in. So the first principle is discipline to decide, just based on what you're saying there, you've got to do what you love, of course.
Yeah.
But from an Eastern point of view, it's because not just because you love it, but because there will be a reaction. There's a response. Like if you don't like what you're doing, it's called a poor digestion. You get indigestion, so to speak, from an Eastern point of view. The second thing is just in response. Sorry, did you want to say something, Robert?
No, keep going. You're on the money.
So the second thing, it comes from the Tao Te Ching, which is in the Tao Te Ching, it says being goal-orientated and impatient. Goal-orientated and impatient. In other words, I've got to have this end result. I've got to have this outcome, and I'm impatient to get there. It takes us away from our inner stability. Now, what inner stability is that state of grace and poise and centeredness and presence that someone who's in flow has. So in other words, being impatient and goal-orientated will take us out of flow. However, on the flip side, being path-orientated and patient centers us. In other words, being path-orientated, in other words, the discipline to do what's right and what's right in front of me that I know I must be doing, and having the patience to do it despite whether or not I get an immediate gain, that is what puts us into flow according to the Tao Te Ching. So this whole concept, we're talking about this in modern day business, but the Tao Te Ching is, or the I Ching, sorry, these are thousands of year old texts. And they're saying exactly the same thing. Impatience takes us out of flow. Patience and being path orientated and the discipline to do that puts us into flow. So they're, timeless premises that are so relevant in business.
Yeah. I mean, I was taught by an incredible mentor that said to me, your greatest success in business happens in the 14th year.
Oh, is that right?
And
wow.
Yeah, and most people in the 14th year will actually generate more income than the previous 13 combined. So when you actually understand that, it gives you permission to slow it down, to have a bit more patience. I mean, even with investing in finance, Adam, 20, 30 years, if you're, in your 30s, 40s or something, it's okay. There's no race. And I just wanted to also follow up on all of this with Jim Rohn, who's an incredible guy, again, a mentor and someone that I've learned from. He sadly passed away. But he talks about this concept, success is easy, but so's neglect. And you can actually Google that, success is easy, so's neglect, if you're interested. But I just wanted to read out a couple of snippets from this article that he wrote, Adam, and he talks about, and it's so interesting because there's discipline and patience going on in both of this. But he talks about the things that I found easy to do, other people found it easy not to do. I found it easy to set goals that could change my life. They found it easy not to. I found it easy to read books that could affect my thinking and my ideas. They found it easy not to. If I had to sum it up, I would say that what I found easy to do, they found it easy not to do. 6 years later, I'm a millionaire and they're not. The primary reason most people are not doing as well as they could and should can be summed up in one word: neglect. It's like an infection. Left unchecked, it will spread throughout your entire system of disciplines, and it will eventually lead to a complete breakdown of a potentially joy-filled and prosperous human life. Not doing the things that we know we should do causes us to feel guilty. Guilt leads to an erosion of self-confidence, and as your self-confidence diminishes, so does your level of activity. And as your activity diminishes, your results decline. And as your results suffer, your attitudes weaken. And as your attitude begins the slow shift from positive to negative, your self-confidence will diminish even more. And so it goes on. So my suggestion, when you're given the choice to easy not to, and you do not neglect to do the simple, basic, easy, but life potential changing activities and disciplines. And Adam, wouldn't you just agree? It doesn't everything boil down to that? It's neglect. Easy to do, easy not to.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine who's Peter, they run a very successful. They're crop dusters. So in other words, they own a bunch of planes and they spray fertilizer, etc. They've got on food crops, and they also do firebombing, etc. In other words, planes that put out fires. But he told me this one little story some time ago about what his mentor in business, and he said, "Look, we've all got 24 hours a day. The only difference between the mentor, who was a very successful guy, and all of his competition was he used the exact same words. He said, I don't neglect what's important. I don't neglect what's important. I neglect what's inessential." And that's, this is honestly profound stuff that Jim's just talking about there, Robbo, because it is, like, you just see it through all of the successful business owners that probably not just the ones, like there's a lot of business mentors out there who honestly seem to have shiny things, but the ones that the really successful ones that you don't hear about, they're quietly going about doing their essential things and growing successful businesses. Doing just that, what is essential. They don't neglect the essential. It's profound.
And And in addition, mate, I mean, you've obviously got a family, and it even leads into that, doesn't it? The not neglecting, and you were telling me a bit earlier, you wanted to share what your wife even talks to you just about the importance of in a family environment when it comes to neglect.
Well, my wife is she's probably my greatest asset in life, to be honest, because she's the person who holds me most accountable to what's essential. Now, she helps me with discipline, and what she said is she said this to me before when I've had business meetings that have popped up, and I've taken the business meeting over a family event, or I said I'm going to take my son surfing, and I was late for that, and she said, you're on time with your business meeting, and you're late with your family meeting, and the truth is it should be I should have the discipline all the way through, because like her words, what she said was, if you're late or you're not respecting the time frames of the people you've got agreements with, she said, you might not mean it to be this way, but what she said is, what it looks like is that your time is more important than someone else's. And I know, like, I don't know about you, but if someone's late to meetings with me, or like I can generally understand it if things do happen and things do pop up, but if they happen consistently, that person is showing a lack of respect, and the word is contempt. Now, not contempt is like a lot of people misconstrue the word contempt. Contempt just means to disregard. So to treat someone with contempt is to disregard them and not really value them. And one of the biggest killers in business, and in particular in relationships, is to have contempt. In other words, to disregard the people we're in relationship with. If we lose clients, it's usually because we've taken them for granted. If you lose a relationship, a lot of business owners will have relationship breakdown because they've put so much attention on their business and disregarded the relationship. And I don't know how many folks can run a successful business while they have relationship instability. I suppose the point that I'm trying to get across here is that business success, you can't just have that on its own. Your relationships, your health, your friendships even, all of those things are necessary, the key ingredients, they're essential ingredients for everything working. If your relationship at home is suffering, then your business will suffer. If your business is suffering, your relationship at home will suffer. So I think this is why, coming back to your bridge analogy, there is key things that need to happen in business, but there are key things like your health must be looked after, your relationships must be considered. All of those things are essential for business success. In fact, I've got a client or a very good friend who's got a very successful business, and they've built this successful business at the expense of their health. So, there was a conversation the other week where this particular client just said, I'm just so tired. With our turnover's gone from 9 million and it's going to be at 27 million by the end of the year. But I'm so tired. And as we speak, they're at the doctors now, trying to patch up the neglect that they've had for their health. They won't hit 27 mil. They will not hit their target if the health isn't dramatically dealt with. You just can't. You just can't do that. You cannot have poor health and continue to grow in business.
There's 4 limbs, I reckon, Adam. Really simply, and tying into that, I think there's relationships. I think there's health. I think there's your business / financial. And then the last one, I think, which a lot of people overlook, that is one of the major reasons why you and I are running this show, is spiritual. Your spirit, which is actually you giving yourself permission and discipline, actually, to actually also know that you need space, time, and energy for you. And I think it's the bridge of discipline. You need to look at all those four. And in fact, I can't wait, because we are going to be bringing lots more episodes on this whole spiritual realm, which for me is when you're really in tune to who you really are, and you're being 100% true to yourself. Because maybe as well, this client maybe it could potentially be, and I've never met this friend of yours. Sorry, Adam. It could also be something going wrong, and as a warning touch, saying you're not being true to yourself, which, bringing it back to, I think that's what the universe will do all the time, is, as you and I both know, these little beautiful things pop up in your life, which are often just saying you're not being true to yourself in one of those four areas somewhere. And we won't go too much into that now, because that's another topic.
Yeah, that's another topic that we can go very deep into. And I can't wait to. But I just wanted to bring this together, and for me, three very simple solutions, three very simple things that I believe are definitely items on the bridge of discipline that will help you. For me, number one, doing a weekly plan. And it sounds so contradicting to being in flow, but I actually believe planning brings more flow. Just the simplicity of spending 1 hour, investing 1 hour to plan your week out will bring you way more flow, because you can put your exercise in, you can put your time with your family in, you can put your meditation or your spiritual stuff in, and then you can put your most important 20% of activities that bring you the biggest results. You can schedule them in your calendar, right? Number one. Number two, for me, implementing a morning ritual. Something like you said that Bolt does. No, you didn't. That was a different topic on a different day. That it was Adam and I were talking before this episode what we're going to cover, and it was actually a different story, but we won't go there. So for me, I have a morning ritual where I wake up, I move my body, I meditate, I drink some healthy juice to get my nutrition happening, I read some affirmations out, I then plan and schedule my day out. And it's just this morning ritual which just fires me up. I reckon it triples my motivation. And probably the last one, and it's interesting because, if you think about meditation is, so I do 2 lots of 20 minutes a day. It's 20 minutes concentrating on nothing, right? Now, if people can understand the discipline of doing that, 20 minutes concentrating on nothing, if you can concentrate on nothing, how much energy can you fuel when you're concentrating on, for example, creating a marketing piece? And this is why, a major reason why I meditate is because 20 minutes when I focus on building a marketing piece today, Adam, is like 3 hours compared to 10 years ago, because there's no noise going on. And so the last thing is focusing on one thing for extended periods. Okay, it's the importance of having like a 2 to 3 hour gap, focusing on one thing for extended periods. So do you have any tool, 1 to 3 solutions in addition to that? If you were to give just recommendations based on where you think I do, but
owners can be more disciplined.
If I can just respond to those, I mean, these are fantastic. I was actually writing down notes as you were saying them, Robbo, and there's a study that's been done on planning, and the results with an hour's worth of planning will save you between 5 and 9 hours of implementation. So a lot of people say, I don't have time to sit down and plan. You just don't have time not to, Robbo. It's planning is absolutely key. And in relation to meditation, I meditate as well. But my meditation, because one of the byproducts, apart from what you just said there, one of the things that meditation allows me to know is what state of mind I'm in. So it lets me know, because sometimes you get so busy, especially I've got 3 kids and an 8-month-old, and my son's autistic. So we have a pretty wild little house that's going on. So the meditation for me, it allows me to actually, it's almost a check-in to go, okay, what's my state of mind? And it does allow me to calm my mind, but it also, it's like like a pit stop for me. So meditation is absolutely crucial. Now, so my three things that I'd love to add, the first is we need clarity of vision. Now, the reason why I think, two reasons why we need clarity of vision. Most people that I work with, when they talk about their vision, the vision is too ambiguous. Now, what they say, we want to be the world leader in such and such. But the truth is, so does everyone. So why is your vision, and how do you know when you are that world leader? So they have these vague, ambiguous, and non-emotionally or even rationally engaging outcomes that they're trying to achieve. And what happens, I find, is that if the vision isn't clear, the action won't be either. The preceding action won't be clear as well. So with the first thing with that I recommend is get a really clear vision. So you're talking about planning, and it's like, what is the clear outcome of this week, down to numbers? Like, if you can get metrics on it, fantastic, because you'll know you've achieved it. So clarity of vision. Now, the second thing I recommend is what's called focusing on the low numbers. Now, this goes to shiny object syndrome that we were talking about before. Most people are looking for this shiny, fancy, complicated way to grow a business. However, in again, using Eastern philosophy as an example, there's a saying, there's one Tao, there's two yin and yang, there's 4 seasons, there's 5 major organs. So these are low numbers. They're talking about just the low numbers. And so by having a clear vision, what I mean by focusing on low numbers is, what are those essential things that I need to do? In other words, have my health in place, my relationship, my the key things in my business. Having those low numbers is so crucial, because I find if I'm complicating things, I'm off my path. If I'm complicating things, like, my path is simple. It's just it's all about low numbers, and so when I'm getting too complicated, that's one of the first signs. The third thing, you were talking about a morning ritual, and so the third thing I would like to add is the opposite. It's an end of before you go to sleep ritual. Now, I think sleep itself is either something you do because you're exhausted, or it's a form of leverage. You can use sleep as leverage. Now, they did a study because what they wanted to know whether, like, we know our body shuts down when we're sleeping, but they wanted to know whether the mind shuts down. So they used these people with epilepsy, actually, and they hooked them up to these brain monitors, and they gave them specific activities to do before they went to bed. And so they measured their brain activity before they went to bed, and they measured their brain activity during sleep. And what they found was, with these particular activities, there were certain parts of the brain that were firing. And once the person was asleep, the brain continued to fire those same parts of the brain. So once the last thing they did before they went to bed, the brain continued to almost exercise and embed during sleep. Now, the evolutionary theory behind it is, what you are thinking about before bed obviously is important. So the biology says, well, let's make sure we embed that and make that important. So just as a morning ritual is important, so is a pre-sleep ritual. So this is where, doing some visioning or even planning your day the evening before is a really great way to, leverage your sleep. And, if you're into that, I often find I get fantastic dreams or answers to certain questions while I'm dreaming, because I've asked the question before I've gone to sleep. So they were my three things: clarity of vision, focus on the low numbers, and use your sleep as leverage.
So funny, Adam. I was It's a fantastic one before sleep, and I'm not a huge TV watcher, but I've been watching this show called Homeland. I'm not sure if you've heard of Homeland.
I have. I was addicted.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm addicted at the moment, and so I watched an episode. Started off with one episode last night, then another one, and punched out the third one, which is just a lot. And so what do I get? I get a dream full of just being chased around by terrorists. So I know what you're saying is exactly right. I seriously was. It was the most horrific night of terror. I was just completely trapped by terrorists. And for those that haven't watched, it's just fully about terrorism and amazing. But yeah, maybe not the best thing to watch before sleep. But this has been a fantastic show and so valuable and such a good reminder. And again, Adam, some great ideas for me too. And for me, I would just like to say for a next step, pick one. Just pick one area in your life to work on being more disciplined. Don't try and conquer all at once. To chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. And maybe just pick one thing, and it could be the discipline of getting up an hour early. It could be the discipline of doing 20 minutes meditation 4 days, 5 days a week. But just pick one and implement. Adam, do you have any next steps before we sign off?
No, I agree totally. I think, rather than reinvent one's whole life, just take it one piece at a time. I'm also what you're saying about Homeland. My wife and I, we would stay up watching, Homeland, and they've got this hook right at the end that makes you, how can you go to bed? You've got to know what happens in the next episode. And that was actually one of the disciplines that we implemented was
one episode.
A knockoff time. Like life, you've got to enjoy the fruits of life, and the TV is a fantastic thing, and it's a great way to unwind. But there's a point where if it's affecting your dream state, then maybe you need to do it a little bit earlier and add some reading or some another discipline before bed. Yeah. So that's it. I agree totally, mate. One thing at a time. Small changes incremented daily over time make a huge impact on one's life.
Fantastic. So I would love for you to share this with any other business owners. You might have some family, some friends, some colleagues who are thinking about running a business. Hopefully you got a lot from this show. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Take care.